Hello and welcome back to Recorder 101. Wanted to get a little bit of a foreword said today. This is our third lesson in Recorder 101, and I understand that there's quite a holiday going on today in some parts of the world. It isn't happening here where I am in this part of Drachenwald in Arnhem, but it's certainly happening in other parts of the world, and want to acknowledge that. Second thing that I really would like to mention is that underneath the videos here in YouTube, I've got quite a description. In our actual course page, you will get a link to the music. I've got it partially written out. I wrote out what we will be practicing today, the march, the music for the Grand Procession. That will be in the course link. Won't be on YouTube because we don't want to have any, copyright problems. Also would like to announce that, crazy as it may seem, I have added 2 more recorders to my family of recorders. This one is the Soprano, and it plays very much like the alto and the bass. There are some differences in the fingering. And this little baby is the Garkline, and I'm just going to hold up my pink pencil right next to it. It's quite small, as you can see, and getting all of my fingers on here is going to be, they just came yesterday, and first thing I did, wash them all up, get them clean, make sure that they're not carrying anything from, I doubt it, but nevertheless. And the Soprano, the fingers fit much more easily. There's still space to move my fingers around. Now these are going to have very high sounds. The note in the Garkline is that it's 15 C's above middle C. So we've got a very sharp, if I can actually close it up, and yeah, it's a tight squeeze. My fingers are really squeezed here. So that's a very high thing. Great for bird calls, if you're wanting to do bird calls. Great, comes in, this one particular came in a little leather pouch, fits easily in a pocket. So if you're wanting something that's just really easy to put somewhere and take with you, it was actually more expensive than the Soprano, which was under 20 euros. I live with the euro, and the last year at this time euros and dollars were equal, so more or less the Soprano was under 20. So if you're looking to experiment, this one in F, very much like your alto, this one in C, very much like your soprano and tenor. So that's out of the way. Now you can see I'm still sprouting recorders everywhere. Yes. The other foreword that I want to say is I was planning we would have 2 separate tracks, one for alto and one for soprano tenor. I think we'll just do it as one, because a few of you have let me know that you will be experimenting with both. And rather than have 2 videos that you need to watch, we'll just take one. Okay, as always, some exercises to limber up, exercises that are right for you. These are the sorts of things that are very good for me, and I try and keep to what works for me. Breathing, let's do some breathing. I've got my metronome here, and I'm going to turn it on. It's set at 44 We're going for 4. In and now we're going to go for 12. I ran out of breath at 10. Are you doing better than me? I'm going to try it again for 12. Did it. Why is it important? I'll just turn it off. Not going to go for the 16 right now. With such a slow pace, it's important to pace the amount of air that you're breathing out. And that's what I didn't do well the first time. So it's important to say, okay, if we're going slow, I'm going to have to really see how often I'm breathing. Yeah, and that's important also because I'm just putting a little mark here on the score of music that I've got prepared for us to warn us where we are going to be breathing or should be breathing. Now, after the exercise and the breathing from the belly, we need to do the D, 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 T, T, T. So let's try that. Breathe in. D, 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 deep, 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 deep. Whew. So that's a challenge to get that going. Normally, if we were playing a note at that speed, we would want it to last from that first beat to the second beat, and at the second beat we'd want to have a different note. So I'm going to move the recorder speed up to 50. It was at 44. And we're going to try a little experiment. Let's see, that's 4, 8, 12 beats, same different note each time. Some are repeats, the same note twice. And then we've got 2 more notes, and each of those notes are half notes. So they're going to be twice as long. So that would be the same as saying 16. Okay? So we're going to let it start, count to 4, and in our count to 4, we're going to be breathing in and ready to D and change our note. We'll try this. Listen the first time, and then when you're playing it back, try and do the same note with me each time. D, 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 D. This is what I would start the pace at, and those are the notes. Being able to sing them, know what's coming along, can help you actually get them. That's the first bit. And at that point, we would take a breath and begin the second half. So I'm going to start from the beginning again. First 4 beats, taking a breath and preparing. D, 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 D. Ooh. So that's the whole bit that we're working on this week. At your leisure, take the time, rewatch this, listen to it, listen to it, listen to it, because we want to get on with our playing. This speed would probably be a speed that would be good for a funeral. We're having a grand procession. We're not having a funeral. We hope. I know that we've lost people during our coronavirus. Some of them just passed. Some of them passed because of the corona. And so we really want to, we know that there are going to be memorials coming, and it would be good to have something that would contribute to that. The second thing about a slow pace is it's good to have more than one pace that you're able to go at. This particular piece of music could be playable as various contenders for crown come in, or when their majesties and all the coronets come in, that can also be. You don't want them, I'm going to turn this up, that could be about the fastest. Now you've got them trotting, just about. If you turn it up, we turn it into a dance. So that last one was 108. I think the previous was something like 88. I had it at 76, maybe at 66. So somewhere in there, you find using either a real metronome or get a metronome on your smartphone and an app and work out the increments. And we're starting with this one at 50. I'm starting it at 50. Yes, I've had practice with it, but whatever note gives you a hard time, that's the fastest you can go. No faster. Slow is actually better. With many musicians find that those who practice slow are better able to play fast. So don't get yourself all tied up with thinking, I've got to speed it up, I've got to make it faster, faster, faster. Yes, you do. And you need to be able to, okay, how fast can I take this before my fingers or my breathing deteriorate? And when you find your fingers stumbling over something, don't take it any faster. Take it back a little bit slower. Work on that particular fingering. Take just that fingering. So if I'm playing on my tenor and I find I'm having trouble with the F, now here I've got my regular F, and here I've got the F sharp. These two, and all those are there, and the thumb on the back. That'll be it. So this could actually cause me problems, because this is the F sharp that I need. And what am I going to do to go from the F sharp back to the G? It's just lift those two fingers up. You can do things like stand up, stand on one foot, go stand in the corner, dance around, sit down, anything. Just change what you're doing and where you're doing it. You know where the problem is. Take the metronome, play it, and keep, or even not, but how fast can you do it? Because we will need to go from G so that's something to keep always in mind. Wherever the problem is, slow that down and work just on that. Go somewhere else, do something slightly different, and you'll be improving yourself by not keeping yourself in the same location. And while you're doing it, check your fingers. Are they relaxed? Because you want them relaxed. Don't let that death grip get in there. Different location. Very important to occasionally take your recorder someplace where you're a little bit uncomfortable playing it. I could take mine out on the patio. I could take mine down to the beach. We have a little beach. It's usually deserted. I could play it at 5 o'clock in the morning on the beach or in the forest. Someplace where it's really safe, but also where you're just not used to playing, and work just on things that are causing you problems. Not the whole piece, just the trouble areas. You will know what they are. Okay, so we've gone through those things. We have, I can see I've got new notes. Don't forget in your goals to write down small goals like learn that F sharp. Do it smoothly. How much time? What speed? I want to do that F sharp smoothly at a speed of 60. If you can play this music at 50 this week, slowly moving your metronome up to 60 by next week, this is very good. There are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 increments. Can you do that? Moving it up day by day, 1 notch faster. Just 1, not 2. Just 1. That's good. Where's the weakest point? You want it from here to here. Writing down your goals. Being able to go, yes, I did it. Check it off. Reward yourself for doing it. Reward yourself for trying. Okay? So we have some things to learn today, and well, I've got the tenor right here. Last week we were talking about the F and the F sharp, and I did some more checking. My tenor, I was saying, how my soprano wants my F here, and my F sharp is here. Even though the description, the holes, show that my soprano's F would be here. It's not. It's there. But on my tenor, yes it is. It's there. So pay attention to where you're getting things, and that. But today we're going from our F, so here I'm on my tenor, and I'm going to go down one note. Down means what's below F is E. And below E is D. One more finger down, pinky hiding. And finally, let's add C. So if we're doing the how are you, that's what it is, isn't it? How are you? That's the E, and for me that's the F. And yes, I really need to work at it. It's very difficult. Even doing the E and the F sharp is something I need to work on really hard. So those are things that we need to work on. So take your time, work on those. Now, this undoubtedly is my alto. This fingering is my C. But this fingering on my soprano isn't a C, it's a G. Yeah, that's one of the confusing things. My C is down here with all the fingers closed. Coming back to the alto. Same note. And my alto's about to fall off my lap. So when we go down, we've got C, or going up, C, D, E, and this is my German recorder, F. Ah, F. It seems so easy to go to do the F. And what's the F sharp? I forgot. So the F sharp is going to be more complicated on the German than it was on the so that sounds a bit higher. So is it? I can keep hopping back and forth between recorders and really struggle to hear the real difference. And that F, because we've got this C here, we really don't hear that on this alto recorder because its F is way down there and our C is here. Okay, let me take the F sharp the F sharp that's on the alto that we're playing is like this. No, that's F. Excuse me. F sharp. Put down 2 fingers and lift up the thumb. That's the F sharp. And I've really moved my recorder around here. This particular piece of music has one sharp note, looks like a pound sign, and it's up on the top F line. It means every F. And we only have one. And it's in the bottom part. So that's what we have. Now I'm going to keep that thing warmed up down here. Do you have to warm up your recorders? Excellent question. One of you asked. Always a good idea. Is it important to warm up the wooden ones as well? Yes, it is. Plus the wooden ones take more breaking in time because the condensation from your breathing builds up and the wood is trying to absorb that, so you want to really give it time to adjust to being played. So probably with a wooden recorder, you're playing for 5 to 10 minutes a day for a week or two before you're being able to play longer with your wooden recorder. And then it expects you to keep playing it because it's a wooden instrument. So if you put it aside for a long period of time and then you take it up again, you sort of reacquaint it with the fact that it is a musical instrument and you do care for it and things like that. So here we go with this particular tune, metronome. Loud enough to be heard. I'm going to try and be close enough here so that you can see my fingers. Now, I'm going to go to the alto. My dear altos, you are in a very unique position because we're beginning this on the G, which technically is right here, F, G. And you can do that. You can do that. But you can also, and it will harmonize beautifully, but you can also play it identically. This is not the soprano or the tenor's G. This is the C. And what we have with that is we have a fifth. It's a fifth apart. There are actually 5 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's the fifth one apart. And that will sound very intriguing. I'm going to try and play both at the same time so you can hear that. Good breath. So if you are thinking, hey, I want to play this in a group, but how are we all going to sound doing this? You can have altos playing it exactly as it should be, altos playing it a fifth up, which is playing it identically, or the fingering is identical to the sopranos. There's another line of music coming to get that in there. You can have your tenors in there, and if you've got anybody with bass, so it can sound really very, very different and exciting. And music in the Middle Ages liked to do that sort of thing. So I think that's it. I will post the music. If you don't know how to read music, just a brief thing. We're starting here. Yips. One note, second note, third note, and fourth note. Then we've got the fifth note, the sixth note, the seventh note, and the eighth note. And then we've got this note twice, coming back down, and then we've got two long ones of these, the A. And then we're back to the G, the A, the B, the high C, well, the middle high C, and then back down, B, A, G, A, B, G, G, and then, okay, the F, for me it's this, and then back to the G. It's taken me years to be able to count, or not count, to name the notes. And one of the challenges, if you are hopping between alto and soprano, or soprano and sopranino, or all the others that come in the recorder family, is, okay, that's the note, and the fingering is this way. Okay. So I hope you have fun with that. Sorry for such a long video. Hope this is useful. I'll get the thing printed, and there are all sorts of little details in the description on YouTube, but the music will only be here in the course. So stay well, and we hope to see you next week too.